Hey everyone, I'm Sam. I'm a trip leader with Trips by Transit, and today we're here at Susies Lake, bringing to you the second trip in our virtual winter hike series with tricks and tips on how to camp and hike in the winter. First off, I would like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Our very important topic to start off our day is how to pick a good tent site for pitching your tent in the winter. Same as in every other season, first of all, you'd want to make sure that there are no giant trees overhanging with branches that could fall on you or anything like that. Especially in the winter, if it's been snowing, you'll probably get dumped on if you camp under a tree with snow falling off the branches. So yeah, avoid hazards. And the other thing is, if the ground is covered in snow, you'll probably want to dig down into the snow a little bit and give it some stomp downs. Snowshoes are really good for this to help compact the snow underneath where you're going to pitch your tent. If it's possible and you can't really squash the snow down, it's good to maybe build up a snow wall to block some of the wind and cold that's going to come at you during the night. Another thing is, if you can find a really big rock or a stand of trees to camp behind to block the wind, it's probably a really good idea to help stay warm throughout the night. There are tents that are made for winter camping. They're called 4-season tents, but you can camp in the winter with a 3-season tent. You just have to do some extra prep work to make sure you stay warm through the night. And they also make stakes that are made specifically for compacted snow to help stake out your tent throughout the night. But again, that only works if there's snow. Otherwise, you can use normal tent stakes. So one important thing to note, if you do choose to not use a winter tent when you're winter camping, is to make sure that your tent poles are not made of fiberglass, because fiberglass tends to shatter in cold weather and when they're under stress. So you would want to make sure your tent poles are either carbon fiber or aluminum. And the last important thing is, if you're camping in snow, you're going to want to make sure your tent is really tight, so you're using those guy lines to tie it down and stake it out properly. And the best thing that you can do in snow is you can find a stick or a rock to tie the guy lines around, or you could use a stump to tie your guy lines around. And otherwise, if you have maybe a grocery bag or a stuff sack, you can fill it with snow and then dig out a little hole, bury it, and then your tent should be perfectly secure. Today, we're going to be talking about how to have fires in the winter. It's really important, first of all, that you check the HRM website, and there's also a provincial burn restriction map that is a great idea to check in with before ever having a fire anywhere. If you're in a non-restricted zone and you want to have a campfire when you're winter camping, the first thing you would want to do is find a spot that's either bare ground, or if it's covered in snow, you'd want to kind of dig the snow out of the way and create a little pit in the ground that you can start to build your fire in. But if the ground is frozen, you obviously will not be able to dig into the ground. And so what you'd want to do is ideally find some rocks from the surrounding area and kind of put them into a little ring to contain the fire. Another tip about starting fires in the winter, you have to make sure it is nowhere near your tent, because tents are very flammable. So make sure that your fire is in a safe location away from anything that could ignite. If you can, it's a really good idea to bring laundry lint from home, because it's a really good fire starter. And especially in the winter, you might not have access to really dry, dead material to start your fire with. But if you don't have lint, then you would want to look for dry and dead bark, little tree limbs. And leave no trace principles say to only ever collect wood from the ground. Do not break them off of the trees. So hopefully that will get you started on making fires while you're winter camping. So at this stop, we're going to be talking about how to sleep warm while winter camping, because it's probably one of the most important things and something that can definitely make or break your trip. So before you go to bed, this is really important. You need to eat a lot of food, because your body will try and keep you warm as you're digesting your food. And so ideally you'd eat food that has high protein and high fat to keep you warm throughout the night. And if you're already feeling cold before you go to bed, or even if you're kind of just comfortable, it's a really good idea to do some jumping jacks or some sit-ups or a little bit of light jogging on the spot to just kind of get your body going and warm up. And then when you get into bed, so this is a sleeping bag liner. It's really good for adding extra warmth to your sleep system. And obviously you're gonna have a sleeping bag, which I do not have here today, but your sleeping bag is also really important. So you wanna make sure that your sleeping bag is rated to a proper temperature for the conditions that you expect to be sleeping in. And another thing to keep in mind is that women sleep a lot colder than men. And they actually make sleeping bags specifically designed for women's body contours and the fact that they are usually colder when they sleep. So that's something really good to check into. However, sleeping bags can be expensive. So something else that can work is actually if you have a double sleeping bag, you basically sleep in one sleeping bag and then you get in the other sleeping bag on top of, or on the outside of the first one. So that can add a lot of extra warmth, and it's usually cheaper than having to buy a really good sleeping bag that'll keep you warm the first time. So those are just some tips for what to do when you're sleeping. Another thing is drinking water before you go to bed. Although it may be annoying to have to get up in the middle of the night to go pee, drinking water actually helps your body keep you warm. And if you do wake up and have to pee, go pee, because your body expends a lot of energy trying to actually heat up the pee in your bladder. And so as soon as you have to pee, go pee, and it'll help you stay warmer. Additionally, while you're sleeping, you want to layer. First of all, you never want to sleep in wet clothes. So any socks from the day or any wet clothes from sweat or moisture, take them off. Make sure you have a pair of day socks and a pair of night socks that you can put on, and then layer. You want to layer, try and layer equally all over your body. You have a base layer under here, you have your mid layer, and then you have your puffy jacket. And sometimes if it's really cold, an outer shell can help to keep the wind and the cold from getting in. So one last thing to consider when sleeping outside in the winter is your sleeping pad system. So this is an insulated sleeping pad, which you will definitely need if you're sleeping in the winter because the ground is really cold and that comes up underneath you and will make you cold. So MEC advises for winter camping that you use a sleeping pad with what's called an R value of 4.5. And an R value basically just means the pad's ability to retain heat. So it's like its insulating capabilities basically. So my sleeping pad is not 4.5. This is a 3.6 R value. So it's not actually made for winter camping, it's for 3-season camping, but you can make it warmer by adding those extra things like layering while you sleep, using a liner, using good sleeping bags. And another tip, because winter pads are really expensive, is that you can buy one of those little lightweight foam, kind of like subpar yoga mat sleeping pads, and they're just like light and kind of roll out, and just put it under your good sleeping pad, and that'll help to add additional warmth to your sleep system. So that's a lot of tips, but I hope that helped for sleeping in the winter, and hopefully you'll stay warm like I do. Susies Lake is a moderate difficulty trail, so there's some uneven ground, some roots, some rocks. It can be a little icy, but overall it's a really beautiful trail to come on, and as you can see, this awesome lake behind me is a really cool sight from this point. The trails can be a little unmarked sometimes, but you will definitely be able to find your way, and if in doubt, refer to the All Trails app because it has some really cool routes that you can explore on there. So I would like to thank everyone for coming out virtually with us today to Susies Lake, and we really hope that you learned something from our trip, and if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us on our Facebook or Instagram page. Bye!